putting in check that little voice of self-doubt in the back of your head that thinks, this isn't possible for me. You can't necessarily see yourself reaching that level of success. Why? Why not? Why shouldn't it be possible for you? In fact, the proof that it's possible for somebody else should be a huge motivator that if they could do it, so can I.
Right.
We're sisters, best friends, and authors on a mission to help you stoke your creative fire and live the life of your dreams. We believe that purpose fuels passion and that creativity is your secret weapon for mass construction. There's never been a better time to bless the world with your dream realized. You're listening to The Kate and Abbie Show.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of The Kate and Abbie Show. Today we are tackling a big subject, and that is overcoming self-doubt as a writer. This is something that I don't hear a lot of authors talk about, but it is a ever-present struggle for a lot of writers, no matter where you are in your journey, whether you are just starting to write a novel, or maybe you are querying agents, or maybe you're looking for beta readers, or maybe you are sharing your work with someone for the first time, or self-publishing and starting to see reviews coming in or ARC reviews. All these stages of the process have us encountering self-doubt on some level, because when we put ourselves out there, we are met with feedback from other people. And sometimes that feedback is positive, sometimes it's negative, sometimes we don't even know what it's gonna be, but we're like freaking out inwardly because we can anticipate worst case scenarios of what it might be. So regardless of what you're facing right now as an author, just know that every author faces self-doubt at some point. You are not alone. Every creative faces self-doubt. And today, Kate and I want to take this from a concrete action steps level. We don't want to just go on a motivational speech rant here. Motivational speeches can be good, but sometimes they're just too abstract. You don't have enough concrete action steps to take that you can actually transform your life and your mindset and change the way you feel about your own writing and the confidence you have going forward, taking these steps into your author career. So that being said, in this podcast today, Kate and I want to share some of the action steps that have helped us to transform our mindsets so that we can go forward with confidence and joy and inspiration into our author careers, whatever may come our way, and have this permanent attitude of confidence in your work, joy and pride in your work, and not have the constant self-doubt tripping you up. So it's a big topic, but we're gonna dive deep into this today. So really excited to dig into these action steps. But first, before we get into this, we have to thank our amazing patrons. Those are you guys. You are the ones who support this show and keep it going, keep it free of interruptions and sponsorships and things like that. So we so value your support. And if you get value out of this podcast, consider going to patreon.com/The Kate and Abbie Show and help us keep this show alive and free of interruptions. And also, when you join the Patreon, the Kate and Abbie Show Patreon, you also get access to monthly hangout live streams with me and Kate. So just another bonus of being inside the Patreon. Okay, let's get into today's topic. So comparison versus inspiration is the first thing I want to talk about here, because this is something that I think a lot of writers face because we're in the author space. We see a lot of other authors. Maybe they are traditionally published authors or self-published authors, whatever the case, even if they haven't been published yet. A lot of times when we see other authors doing the same thing we're doing, writing books and trying to share them with the world, a lot of times we can feel like we're comparing our own journey with their journey. And I know we've talked about comparison a lot on this podcast before.
It's a big one for a lot of writers, a lot of creatives in general, because we live in this society, a lot of us, at least in like modern Western society, where it's really popular to be on social media, scrolling through social media and looking at what other people are doing. And inadvertently, we begin to compare other people's lives, other people's work with our own lives, with our own work, and seeing how we measure up to it and making judgments and criticisms, getting into negative frames of mind through this comparison, because of all all this social media, all these websites, all that the internet has to offer at our fingertips all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's hard to draw that line sometimes because, as an author, you need to have some level of promoting your own work. So you're trying to probably build a social platform, or maybe build a blog, maybe build a YouTube channel. So you're interacting and networking and making connections. That's great. And even looking to other authors for inspiration and seeing how far other authors have come on their path and the level of success they've had is a great thing to be inspired by. But when you reach this tipping point from inspiration to feeling kind of saddened and maybe a little bit hopeless, thinking that, oh, that's possible for that author, but maybe it's not possible for me. That's where the self-doubt starts to come in, and the second guessing, and you start thinking like, yeah, I see, all these authors who are on best-selling lists and selling millions of copies of their books and maybe have huge fan bases, but in the back of your mind, you think, that's not possible for me. Even if it's a subconscious thing, that's where the change happens, the pivotal moment happens from inspiration to comparison. Mm-hmm. So finding that balance and not letting yourself slip into the comparison mindset is really just a matter of reframing the way you're looking at it and putting in check that little voice of self-doubt in the back of your head that thinks, this isn't possible for me. And you might not even hear it in those specific words. It might just be a feeling that you have of like, you can't necessarily see yourself reaching that level of success. Why? Why not? Why shouldn't it be possible for you? In fact, the proof that it's possible for somebody else should be a huge motivator that if they could do it, so can I.
Right.
Regardless of how different your paths may look, your publishing paths, if it's possible for someone else, it's possible for you. And so let those moments where you glimpse somebody else's success be like rocket fuel to push you forward on your journey, and not the other way around of, retreating and thinking that's not, that won't happen for me. Yeah, exactly.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Thinking that, and a lot of times, let's face it too, when we look at other people, especially through these online settings, which is what a lot of us are looking at other people through these days. Most of the time it's not someone necessarily right next to you in real life. A lot of times it's online. We're seeing not only just, their highlight reels, but we're also looking at them as like they are this like confident superstar of a person. Yeah. They have no self-doubt. They are like just killing it in every area. And look at me. I have all these doubts. I have all these like these things I'm working through, and we think of those other people as like perfect.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Automatically we think of it as like, look, they're just effortlessly becoming this, the author they've always dreamed of being, and I have to work so hard at it. It's like, right. Well, they have all this, they have their own things that they're working through. They have their own doubts, their own fears, their own insecurities. And we often don't think about that when we look at other people. We look at other people and think that they're fearless, confident human beings, when in fact they're dealing with the same stuff we are. Or maybe it's different for them, but it's still their own things that they're working through. So it's important to keep in mind that they are every bit as human as you are.
Yeah, exactly. That's a very good point. And
they're not on some other level.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true, because it's like they're not going to share those messy parts of their life with you.
Right.
And there's a lot that we keep to ourselves. So yeah, don't assume that like what's on the surface is everything there is to see, because everybody deals with this. Everybody deals with their own, doubts and hesitations about things. And a lot of authors also have a lot of things they've written that they've never published because they feel like, that's not my best work. So if you're writing and you're comparing, your first draft with polished books on your shelf, that's one of the comparison things that can really eat away at you and make you think, oh, I'm not good enough. Well, how many unpublished first drafts do you think those published authors have, hiding in the archives of their computer or in notebooks that are very similar to your first drafts? You can't compare like a first draft that hasn't even been edited to a, polished, published book. So yeah, keeping in mind that, every author goes through these different stages of their journey, and even now are probably dealing with their own self-doubts and reservations. Which comes right into our next point here, which is changing the way you speak to and about yourself. And a way to change this is through positive affirmations. But you don't just have to, Google positive affirmations and start, rehearsing them every single day. That will actually help. That will do something. But I invite you to become more conscious of the negative affirmations that pop up all the time in your subconscious, whether you speak them or just think them, and use those moments to acknowledge it. Don't judge yourself for thinking it, but acknowledge it and then replace the thought with something that's more positive. So for instance, say you're in the situation where you're, scrolling through Instagram, seeing some successful authors sharing their success stories, and you in the back of your mind, you think, oh, that'll never be me. Okay, that's a negative thought that we want to acknowledge and we want to replace. And even if you have to say it out loud, in fact, I recommend saying it out loud because it will help to just cement it extra hard in your mind. Say out loud to yourself, that is possible for me. That same success is going to happen in my future. Right. The perfect, successful book deal or publishing or book launch, whatever method it may be, the most successful book launch is already in my future and I'm on a path headed towards it. So however you want to say it to yourself, you can make up your own way to say it. You're a writer, so get creative. But creatively reword and rewire your brain one thought at a time, and it will be a practice, like a continual habit that you have to break and renew this new habit, but it is so worth it and it will change your life. Like, you will find that your whole attitude is different, your creativity is different, your creativity is just bubbling up, and you have more inspiration, more energy, and that you're happier, because we are happier when we change our mindset and our attitude to have a positive outlook on the future, because it's just as easy to imagine success as it is to imagine failure.
Right.
So, you choose what you imagine every day.
Exactly. It's so true. And I actually did a video about this recently, which we'll link below. But I was talking about this exact thing, which is changing your self-talk. And even if you find that it's hard at the beginning, you're still getting negative thoughts, because thoughts are a lot more difficult to change than our words. And having just a stream of chaotic thought going through your head is kind of just part of the natural human experience. It's not about like, oh, I'm having these thoughts go through my mind, how do I make them stop? We can't really stop thoughts, because thoughts just enter and flow through the mind. What we can stop is ourselves from latching onto a thought and making it our own. Just acknowledge it as a passing thought, not yours, just a stream of consciousness that we don't have to directly identify with. We don't have to hold on to those thoughts. And what I touched on in that video that I've come to see is what we give so much more validation to a thought. We take the validation to the next level when we speak it aloud, because our body and our spirit and our soul are actually listening to the words that we speak. And our body begins to align itself with the words we speak, whether they're positive or negative. Which kind of lines up with like the law of attraction and what we're constantly speaking. We're actually like bringing that about. We're changing that atmosphere around us to like gear us up for success or failure, whatever those things mean to you. And so it's so important that even if you have the thought, like Abby was saying, that, oh, that success will never be me, I'll never be able to publish a book or whatever it is. Even if that thought is there, do not speak it aloud. Just like Abby was saying, just notice it's there and let it go without judgment, but don't say it.
Yeah.
And don't tell someone else about it. Like, oh, look at that. That'll never be me. It's horrible, isn't it? Like, I can't do it. Don't say that. Don't, in fact, do that.
Like, speaking the positive flip side of it, like, it kind of like
derails.
Yeah, it tells your brain like, whoa, I'm saying something, I'm validating something through saying it that I didn't just think. And so your mouth is actually telling your brain what to think.
Yes, exactly. So you're kind of flipping the script.
Right.
So that's something you can, and for a while it might feel like that doesn't do anything, but just keep at it, keep going, keep filling yourself with words that are going to fuel you forward. And eventually you'll find, maybe 2, 3, 4 months from now, wow, I think completely differently than I did 4 months ago.
Yeah.
So it's something you have to kind of keep doing it. Even if it feels like, hey, I'm not making any progress. I still feel like I'm thinking negatively. As time goes by, it's kind of like, the drip falling on the rock, like slowly making a dent in the rock. And over time, it makes a big change. So it's something you have to just keep doing, keep practicing.
Right. Yeah. And this is something that you go deeper into in your new course that you just recently released, which is the Writer's Wellness course.
Right.
And going deeper into like every single day, building that habit of putting positive thoughts in your mind. You do like a meditation, right, each day.
Yeah. So it starts off with like a little talk, like kind of like what we're doing now, like an organic discussion. I call them motivational talks sometimes, but it's not really like, it's like organic. Like I'm sitting down with a cup of coffee and talking to you like Abby and I are now. And then we go into a meditation that's always geared towards getting you in a really creative mindset so that you can unleash your creativity for the day. That there's a yoga flow and a recipe. So each day is like following this holistic approach that I personally have used in my own life to help nourish and flourish my creativity for several years now. And I've found that, it's stuff like what we're talking about now, affirmations, changing the way we think, changing what we're doing throughout our day to gear our minds up to get out of this comparison game, to get out of these slumps and to get into new levels of creation, to get excited about what we're making.
Right. Yeah. And I love that concept. And I love the approach that you take to it in the course and talk about how you talk about the way that it's all connected. Everything in our life that isn't us sitting down writing a story is actually supporting and feeding into that.
Right.
So like you can customize and build what that is and whatever is, the rest of it is going to end up in your writing somehow, one way or another.
It's kind of like the training for that.
Yeah.
So it's like if you were a runner and you ran races and you, every time you, like maybe you weren't running the race to your full potential, you wouldn't just be focusing on what you were doing during that 30-second race, that 1 minute race. You'd be like, well, what about my workouts? What about my diet? What about how much sleep I'm getting? What about my rest time? Yes. What about the habits I'm adopting into my everyday life? Because all of those things are building me into the person who will be able to run that race and be happy with my performance. So it's the same thing with creativity. Yeah. Creativity is a function of our minds. Right. And we're just creating this really healthy environment where our brain is like, okay, I want to make something. So you have to really, it's kind of like going through those different trainings like you would with an athlete, if you were an athlete, except to get your mind into a state where it's like, yes, I'm ready to create something.
Yeah, I love that. It's a great analogy. So if you guys want to start this awesome journey that Kate has put together for you, click the link below this video. We will leave the link to the course in the description box below so you can check it out and dig deeper into that. And you will not be sorry that you did it. You will be so glad that you decided to take this step towards making a beautiful atmosphere that you can live and work in that will just feed into your writing and give you so much more inspiration, will reignite your creative fire. It'll be amazing. So check it out, link below this video. But yeah, coming off the affirmations, that's something that's included deeply in your talks in the course and in the meditations. And one thing that you can also add on to with affirmations, or even if you're not like speaking anything or or, reciting affirmations, you can imagine the feeling of being the successful author you want to be. What does that look like?
Right.
Like, what are those images that come into your mind? Is it that your books are being sold in every bookstore? Is it that they're on the bestseller list? Is it that maybe one person who needs that book gets to read that book that you wrote and it changes their life forever? Whatever your definition of success is, imagine that. Imagine the feeling that it is already done, and that will energetically call it into your future, into your reality.
Right.
It can't not. Like, that's just the trajectory of the universe. That's how all things unfold. So, you as a writer have an incredible imagination. We all do. But especially writers. I mean, writers are using their imaginations to visualize really detailed things all the time. So this should be easy for you to do, and it should be fun, because this is your future. You're creating a world around.
I love that.
And our next point here is to surround yourself with people who build you up and build up your confidence in yourself and in your work. This, I think, is so vital because oftentimes if you are facing your own self-doubt, you don't want that doubt and hesitation reaffirmed by anybody around you. You don't want negative voices around you telling you, oh, get a real job. This isn't going to work. This isn't going to make money. You're never going to get published. Look how many books are in the world. The world doesn't need your book. If you have people around you who are saying stuff like this, you need to distance yourself from these conversations. Maybe you can't distance yourself physically from the people if they're like your family and you live with them, but choose not to have these discussions with them if you find that by the end of this discussion, you don't feel built up, you feel dragged down, you feel like more doubt and more hesitation. If that's the case, then you need to start looking for people who can build you up and build up your confidence. Maybe that's even in an online space. Maybe that's even me and Kate talking to you right now through this video. Or maybe it is through like the Make Your Story Matter community on my channel and the Discord community. And there's so many writers here on this channel who build each other up and support each other. And it's such a beautiful thing because we need that. Because writing is a very lonely art. We're in this alone, but we're in this together. So it's really important to surround yourself with people who will give you that little extra boost of confidence to keep going and to believe in yourself. Right. Because at the end of the day, you need to feel that others believe in you too, and that you're not just hiking this mountain all on your own.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like so important, like Abby's saying, now you can take advantage. That's one of the nice things about technology is that even if you don't have that physically around you, you can find that online like we have with you guys because we wouldn't have found you guys had we not been able to be here on YouTube talking to you.
Right.
So there can be some really nice things that come out of, the technological tools that we have today that weren't available to us before. So find encouraging people, find it, and they don't even need to be writers. They can just be anyone who helps you stoke your creative fire, anyone who makes you feel like, yes, I can do this. You can also listen to like a lot of people that you don't necessarily know them personally, but whether it's like an audiobook or maybe a certain speaker or TED Talks, whatever, just whatever it takes to get your mindset feeling more elevated, feeling more like, yes, I can do this. I'm on the right path.
Yeah, 100%. That's so true. And, I'm sure many of you have probably heard the saying or, the statistic, I guess, that you are a combination of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And psychologically, this is very true, but it doesn't have to be a passive decision. Like you can choose who those people are that you spend the most time with, because spending time with someone is really listening to what they have to say, listening to their thoughts and opinions. And if you have people in your life who aren't building you up and you find that they're, some of the people that you spend the most time with, that could have a negative impact long term on your life and your career and your happiness. So like Kate was saying, find people like speakers or maybe podcasters or authors, even if they're not alive anymore. Even if their works are timeless and something that inspires you, surround yourself with their works.
Right.
Get their audiobooks, listen to someone speaking their words and spend time with that, because you can choose your friends. Even if your friends, even if it's a one-way friendship, even if it's somebody that you'll never meet, they can still build you up and support you,
right,
and give you that confidence.
Yeah, exactly. The emotional and spiritual support.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And lastly, find your battery chargers and your battery drains. So this is kind of just a term that I made up to really illustrate what I mean by this, is what fuels your creative fire and what is kind of throwing water on the flames. So you can look at it as a fire or a battery. I personally feel like the battery thing kind of is a good illustration, because you feel it giving you more energy or you feel it draining your energy. And this can, like a lot of times we talked about this with social media, and kind of going back to what we were saying at the beginning with comparison versus inspiration. Social media could be a source of inspiration to a degree by seeing other authors' success stories and saying, oh, that's possible for me, or, getting inspiration on different ways that you can maybe promote your own work. But when it pushes over into the realm of comparison and self-doubt, and now I'm feeling sad and lonely because I don't have what these other people appear to have on social media, then that becomes a battery drain. And it's literally sucking your energy dry, and you aren't going to be able to come to your story with the same kind of energy, or come to any part of your, publishing path with that same energy. So you need to find those things that feel like this drains my energy, and then the other things that build up your energy, and see if you can tailor and craft your daily schedule to include more of the things that charge your batteries and less of the things that drain them. And it can really be as simple as that.
Yeah,
I feel.
It can. And taking time to take stock and think about what are the things that gut instinct, I feel like, build me up. And gut instinct, what are the things that like, oh, I know that that's a trap. Whenever I go to, that website and I start scrolling and I get all discouraged, like, what they are. So like, go with your gut instinct, and whatever the first things that come to your mind, those are probably some of those things. So you can make even a list of like, these are the things that fill me up. These are the things that make me feel down. And avoid those, falling into the trap of those things.
Yeah, I like that idea a lot, like making a list and having that list be like, the ban list. Like,
right.
I cannot do these things.
Right. Like for me, it used to
sometimes ever.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Like back when I used to use a phone years ago, I used to scroll through social media, especially like Instagram and Facebook, and those would always put me in a negative mindset. Always. There was not a single time that I did that that's like, oh, I feel great after doing this. And so I really had to come to terms with and be really honest with myself that, hey, this is not doing me any good. So therefore, I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm not going to do that thing. I'm going to let go of this, which led me on a journey of like getting rid of my phone altogether. But you don't even have to be that extreme. You can just find the things that are not fueling you forward in your journey in any way and let those things go.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. That's so good. So just to recap everything that we've talked about today, comparison versus inspiration, reframe your mindset so that you are actually drawing inspiration from success stories and believing that that success is possible for you, and not comparing yourself to others, but actually using them as a source of motivation. Positive affirmations can completely transform your life. So change your self-talk, change the way that you were talking about yourself and talking to yourself. Switch negative thoughts into positive thoughts. And check out Kate's wellness course below for more in-depth guided videos that will walk you through affirmations, meditations, yoga practices, healthy recipes, so much in that course. Check that out. Surround yourself with people who build you up. And finally, find your battery chargers and your battery drains and fill yourself with energy-giving, life-giving activities in your daily life, and try to avoid or even ban the battery draining activities from your daily life. So hopefully you guys took lots of notes and got lots of value out of this episode. We wanted to give you some concrete action steps that you can take so that you're not just, guessing in the dark, listening to motivational speeches. Motivational speeches can be great sometimes, but sometimes you also need actionable steps that you can take to transform your mindset and set yourself on a path to success as an author. So hopefully you got value out of this discussion today. We would love to hear your thoughts. So join the discussion below, comment below, tell us what you think about self-doubt as a writer. What have been your experiences with that? And how have you personally helped yourself to overcome some of that doubt and hesitation and fear? We would love for you to share your thoughts and tips below for other writers to glean inspiration from. Thank you again to our amazing patrons who support this show and make it possible, make it free of interruptions. We love you guys so much. We're so grateful for your support. And if you get value out of this podcast, head over to patreon.com/The Kate and Abbie Show and help us keep it alive and free of interruptions. Until next time,
stay stoked
and rock on.